What happens when royalty walks onto a talk show thinking they're above everyone else, only to get escorted out in complete disgrace? In just 36 seconds, one shocking comment turned a friendly interview into an absolute disaster that left the entire studio speechless. But before we dive into this unbelievable moment, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because we're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's dark side, exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think about this outrageous behavior. Now, let's get into what really happened. The Jennifer Hudson Show has always been known for its warm, welcoming atmosphere. Jennifer, with her incredible voice and even more incredible heart, has built a reputation for making every single guest feel comfortable and valued. She treats everyone with respect, from the biggest stars to everyday people with inspiring stories. Her studio is a place of joy, laughter, and genuine conversation. That's what makes her show so special. That's what her audience loves about her. So when Prince Harry was scheduled to appear as a guest, everyone expected a lovely conversation. The producers were excited. The audience was thrilled. Jennifer herself had prepared thoughtful questions about his charity work, his life, and his experiences. Everything was set up for a perfect episode. The lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and the energy in the room was electric with anticipation. Jennifer walked out onto that stage with her signature smile, greeting the audience with the warmth that has made her one of the most beloved hosts on television. She was wearing a stunning blue dress that sparkled under the studio lights. Her hair was perfect, her makeup was flawless, and her spirit was ready to have a meaningful conversation. The audience clapped and cheered as she took her seat, ready to welcome the royal guest. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jennifer announced with genuine excitement in her voice, "please welcome Prince Harry." The audience erupted into applause. Prince Harry walked out from backstage, waving to the crowd with a smile that seemed friendly at first glance. He was dressed in an expensive suit that probably cost more than most people make in a month. His shoes were polished to perfection. Everything about his appearance screamed privilege and wealth. He sat down across from Jennifer, and that's when things started to feel different. Jennifer, ever the professional, dove right into the interview with a warm welcome. "Thank you so much for being here today," she said with that genuine smile. "We're so excited to have you on the show." Harry nodded, but there was something in his expression. Something cold, something distant. He looked around the studio like he was assessing whether it was good enough for him. His eyes scanned the set, the cameras, the audience, like he was judging every single detail. "Thanks for having me," he replied, his voice flat and lacking any real warmth. Jennifer, being the gracious host she is, didn't let that bother her. She pushed forward with her first question. "So, I want to start by talking about your charity work. You've done so much to help veterans and mental health awareness. What drives that passion for you?" It was a perfectly good question. A softball question, really. The kind of question that any guest would appreciate because it lets them talk about something meaningful and positive. It was an opportunity for Harry to shine, to share his heart, to connect with the audience. But instead of answering with humility and grace, Harry leaned back in his chair and let out a small, dismissive laugh. "You know," he began, his tone already shifting into something uncomfortable, "I think people don't really understand the pressure of being in my position. When you come from where I come from, when you have my background, you see the world differently than most people." Jennifer's smile faltered for just a split second. You could see it in her eyes, that tiny flicker of confusion, but she kept her composure, nodding encouragingly, trying to bring the conversation back to a positive place. "I'm sure that's true," she said kindly, "but tell us about the actual work you're doing, the veterans you're helping, the impact you're making." Harry waved his hand dismissively, like the question was beneath him. Sure, the veterans. Look, I support them, obviously. But what I really want to talk about is how difficult it is being me. The scrutiny, the pressure, the constant attention. Do you know what it's like to have everyone watching your every move?" The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't what they came to see. This wasn't the inspiring conversation they expected. Jennifer, to her credit, tried to redirect once again. "I think a lot of people can relate to feeling pressure in their lives," she offered, trying to find common ground. "But I'd love to hear more about how you use your platform to help others." Harry's expression changed. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed slightly. "That's the problem with these interviews," he said, his voice taking on an edge. "Everyone wants to put me in this little box. Everyone wants me to perform like a trained SEAL, Say the right things, smile at the right times, pretend like everything is perfect? Jennifer blinked, clearly taken aback. The audience was dead silent now. You could hear a pin drop in that studio. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every uncomfortable second. I don't think anyone here wants you to perform, Jennifer said calmly, maintaining her professionalism even as the tension grew. We just want to have an honest conversation. Honest? Harry let out a bitter laugh. You want honest? Fine, let's be honest. I agreed to come on this show as a favor. Do you understand that? A favor. I could be anywhere right now. I could be on any show I want, but I chose to come here. The air in the studio became thick with awkwardness. Jennifer's face remained composed, but you could see the hurt flash across her eyes. She had welcomed this man into her space with nothing but kindness and respect, and he was treating her like she should be grateful for his presence. I appreciate you being here, Jennifer said, her voice steady but cooler now. And I'm sure our audience does too, but I think we should remember that this is a conversation, not a favor. We invited you because we thought you had something meaningful to share. Harry leaned forward, and his next words would be the ones that changed everything. Meaningful? He scoffed. What's meaningful is that someone like me is sitting across from someone like you. Let's be real here. You're a talk show host. I'm royalty. We're not exactly on the same level, are we? The gasp from the audience was audible. Collective shock rippled through the studio. Jennifer's face, which had remained pleasant and professional throughout this entire uncomfortable exchange, finally showed genuine hurt. Her eyes widened, her smile disappeared completely. This man had just disrespected her in the most blatant way possible, on her own show, in front of her own audience. Excuse me? Jennifer said, her voice quiet but firm. I'm just being honest, Harry continued, seemingly oblivious to the line he had just crossed. There's a hierarchy in life. Some people are born into greatness. Some people work in entertainment. Those are just facts. Jennifer sat up straighter in her chair. The warmth that had defined her entire demeanor was gone, replaced by a steely strength that showed exactly who she was. A woman who had worked incredibly hard for everything she had, who had earned her success through talent and determination, and who would not be disrespected in her own house. Let me tell you something about facts, Jennifer began, her voice controlled but powerful. The fact is, I invited you here with respect. I prepared questions about your work, your life, your passions. I welcomed you with open arms, and you've spent this entire time acting like you're doing me some kind of favor by breathing the same air. Harry opened his mouth to speak, but Jennifer wasn't finished. The fact is, she continued, her words measured and deliberate, every single person in this audience works hard every day. They have real jobs, real struggles, real lives. They came here hoping to be inspired, hoping to hear something meaningful, and instead, you've talked about nothing but yourself and how difficult your privileged life is. The audience began to clap, slowly at first, then building into full applause. They were supporting their host, showing her that they stood with her against this entitled behavior. Harry's face flushed red. He clearly wasn't used to being challenged. Now wait just a minute, he started, his voice rising. You can't speak to me like that. Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Jennifer shot back. You're a guest on my show who has disrespected me, my audience, and this entire experience. And I've heard enough. You're being ridiculous, Harry said, his voice dripping with condescension. This is exactly the kind of treatment I'm talking about. The media, the hosts, everyone trying to tear me down. Jennifer shook her head slowly. Nobody is tearing you down. You're doing that all by yourself with your own words and your own attitude. I've been nothing but kind to you from the moment you walked out here. Kind? Harry laughed mockingly. You call this kind? Attacking me on live television? I'm not attacking you, Jennifer said firmly. I'm standing up for myself and for the respect that every person deserves, regardless of their title or background. You came onto this show thinking your status would excuse your behavior, but here's the thing. Respect isn't given based on titles. It's earned through how you treat people. The audience erupted into even louder applause. People were standing now, showing their complete support for Jennifer. This woman had conducted herself with such grace under pressure, and everyone in that room recognized it. Harry stood up abruptly from his chair, his face now completely red with anger and embarrassment. I don't have to sit here and take this, he declared, pointing his finger at Jennifer. Do you have any idea what kind of power I have? What kind of connections I have? I could ruin you. The studio went completely silent. Those words hung in the air like poison. threatening the host on her own show, in front of hundreds of witnesses and cameras recording every second. It was beyond belief. Jennifer stood up as well, meeting his eyes with unwavering strength. "Is that a threat?" she asked calmly. "It's a promise," Harry said, his voice shaking with rage. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Jennifer took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "Security," she called out, not breaking eye contact with Harry. "Please escort our guest out of the building." Harry's eyes went wide with shock. "What? You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," Jennifer replied. "You've been disrespectful, you've been dismissive, and now you've made threats. This interview is over. You need to leave." "This is outrageous," Harry shouted as two security guards began walking toward the stage. "You can't kick me out. Do you know who I am?" "You've asked that question several times now," Jennifer said, her composure never wavering. "And my answer remains the same. I know exactly who you are. You're someone who forgot that respect goes both ways. You're someone who thought their title made them better than everyone else. And you're someone who is no longer welcome on this show." The security guards reached the stage, positioning themselves on either side of Harry. The audience watched in stunned silence, witnessing something that had never happened on this show before. "Don't touch me!" Harry snapped at the security guards, jerking his arm away. "I'll leave on my own." "Then please do," Jennifer said simply. Harry looked around the studio one more time, perhaps hoping someone would come to his defense, would tell Jennifer she was making a mistake. But every face he saw was either shocked, disgusted, or supportive of the host. Nobody was on his side. He had alienated every single person in that room with his entitled attitude and disrespectful behavior. "You're going to regret this," Harry said, his voice lower now but still threatening. "When the press hears about this, when my people hear about this, you'll be finished." Jennifer didn't flinch. She stood tall, her shoulders back, her head held high. "The only thing I'll regret is wasting time trying to have a meaningful conversation with someone who has no interest in anything beyond themselves. Now please leave." The security guards began walking Harry toward the exit. He resisted slightly, turning back to the cameras like he wanted to say more, like he wanted the last word. But there was nothing he could say that would change what had just happened. Everyone had seen his true colors. Everyone had witnessed his shocking behavior. As he was escorted off the stage and toward the studio exit, the audience remained silent. They were processing what they had just witnessed. This was unprecedented. Talk show guests don't get kicked off shows, especially not royal guests. But Jennifer had stood her ground, had refused to tolerate disrespect, and had shown incredible strength in the face of someone who believed his status put him above everyone else. Once Harry was completely out of sight, Jennifer turned back to the audience. She took a moment, collecting herself, letting out a breath. Then, slowly, that warm smile returned to her face. "Well," she said, and a small laugh escaped her lips. That was unexpected. The audience erupted. Not just applause this time, but cheers, whistles, standing ovations. They were showing their support, their appreciation, their respect for how she had handled that impossible situation. Jennifer had done what so many people wish they could do when faced with entitled, disrespectful behavior. She had stood up for herself with grace and strength. "You know what?" Jennifer continued, her voice filling with emotion. "I started this show to create a space where people feel welcomed, valued, and heard. Every single person who walks through that door deserves respect, whether they're a celebrity, a teacher, a nurse, or anyone else. And that respect goes both ways." The audience continued clapping, many people wiping tears from their eyes. They connected with her words because they were real, genuine, and came from the heart. "I will never," Jennifer said, her voice stronger now, "ever allow someone to come into this space and treat people like they're lesser. I don't care about titles. I don't care about status. What I care about is how we treat each other. And what you all just witnessed was someone who forgot that basic principle of human decency." More applause. More cheers. The energy in the room had completely transformed from that uncomfortable tension to something powerful and uplifting. "We're going to take a quick break," Jennifer announced. "And when we come back, we're going to shake off that negativity and talk to some truly inspiring people who understand what it means to use their platform for good." We'll be right back. As the show cut to commercial, the audience continued standing, continued applauding. Jennifer walked over to the edge of the stage, shaking hands with audience members, thanking them for their support. Cameras captured people telling her how proud they were, how she did the right thing, how she handled it perfectly. Behind the scenes, producers and crew members were scrambling, This had never happened before. They were making calls, preparing statements, figuring out how to handle what would certainly become a major news story. But on the stage, Jennifer remained calm. She had done what she knew was right, and she stood by it completely. When the show came back from commercial, Jennifer had composed herself fully. She welcomed her next guests with that same warmth and kindness she always brought to every interview. She didn't dwell on what had happened with Harry. She didn't badmouth him or continue the drama. She simply moved forward, showing that her show was about positivity, inspiration, and real conversation. The rest of the episode went beautifully. Jennifer interviewed a teacher who had started a program to feed hungry students, a veteran who was helping other veterans adjust to civilian life, and a young woman who had overcome incredible odds to achieve her dreams. Every guest was treated with respect, kindness, and genuine interest. Every guest left feeling valued and heard. That's what the Jennifer Hudson Show was really about. Throughout the remaining interviews, you could see the lightness return to Jennifer's demeanor. She laughed with her guests, asked thoughtful questions, and created those meaningful moments that make great television. The audience responded with enthusiasm, grateful to be part of a show that stood for something real. As the show wrapped up and Jennifer gave her closing remarks, she addressed what had happened one final time. "I want to thank all of you for being here today," she said, looking directly into the camera. "Today reminded me why I do this job. It's not about celebrity gossip or drama. It's about real conversations with real people. And when those conversations aren't happening with respect and mutual dignity, then they're not conversations worth having." She paused, letting those words sink in. "I've been blessed in my career," she continued. "I've sung on the biggest stages. I've won awards. I've achieved dreams I never thought possible growing up. But none of that happened because I thought I was better than anyone else. It happened because I respected the craft. I respected the people I worked with, and I never forgot where I came from." The camera zoomed in slightly on her face, capturing the genuine emotion in her eyes. So to anyone watching this who thinks their status or their title or their background makes them more important than others, let me tell you something. It doesn't. We're all human beings trying to navigate this world together. And the only thing that really matters is how we treat each other along the way. The audience gave her one final standing ovation as the show's theme music began to play. Jennifer waved, blew kisses to the audience, and walked off stage with her head held high. In the studio hallways afterward, crew members approached Jennifer one by one to congratulate her, to tell her she had done the right thing, to express their support. She hugged them, thanked them, and reminded them that they were all part of making the show special. One of the producers pulled her aside. "That was incredible," he said, shaking his head in amazement. "The way you handled that? I've never seen anything like it." Jennifer smiled softly. "I just did what felt right," she replied. "Nobody gets to come into our house and disrespect us. I don't care who they are." "The phones have been ringing off the hook," the producer continued. "Other guests calling to express support, audience members wanting to share their thoughts. This is going to be huge." Jennifer nodded, understanding the magnitude of what had transpired. "Good," she said simply. "Maybe it'll remind people that respect matters, that kindness matters, that how we treat people says more about us than any title or status ever could." As Jennifer walked to her dressing room, passing by crew members setting up for the next day's show, she felt at peace with what had happened. Yes, it had been uncomfortable. Yes, it had been unprecedented. But she had stayed true to herself and her values. She had shown strength in the face of entitlement and disrespect, and she had sent a clear message. On her show, everyone deserves respect, and no amount of status excuses bad behavior. The next morning, the video of Harry being kicked off the show would spread across the internet. Millions of people would watch it, comment on it, share it. Some would support Jennifer's decision completely, praising her for standing up to entitled behavior. Others would criticize her, claiming she had been too harsh or disrespectful to royalty. But the overwhelming majority would see what everyone in that studio had seen, a professional woman refusing to tolerate disrespect in her own space. But that would come later. In that moment, as Jennifer sat in her dressing room, removing her makeup and reflecting on the day, she knew she had done the right thing. She had stood up not just for herself, but for every person who has ever been made to feel small by someone who thought they were better. She had shown that respect isn't something you get because of your title or your background. It's something you earn through your actions and your treatment of others. And that's a lesson some people desperately need to learn.